deep dive into some of the common entry-level roles, because obviously some of the other roles, like chief data officer, you need to be qualified to get into it. So I want to talk about some of the roles that you could just go into it after graduating, or if you're switching careers. Then the next role that's very common for junior people to enter, graduates and people who want to change career, is a data analyst. And this is actually one of the most common roles that people go into. And what these roles generally do is things like ad hoc reporting, right? So they will answer specific business questions. For example, why did sales drop today? What happened because it rained yesterday, or that kind of stuff. So they just answer questions that the business have. They're also very good at data visualization. So one of their roles is communicating what they found in an easy to understand way. And one of the ways they will do that is through creating graphs and charts that are suitable for the data that they're presenting. Okay, so they become very good at understanding what data they need to do where. They need to identify trends, because a lot of the time data analysts are really helping the business understand what happened in the past and can we help it to explain what we might do in the future or what might happen in the future. So if a business has, for example, has run a Black Friday, then they might say, okay, we've run 3 Black Fridays. What do you think this Black Friday is going to do for us? And the analyst is able to then identify trends and be able to tell them how it's going to perform in the future. They also do a lot of data validation. So the data analysts are very close to the business, so they know what the numbers should look like. So they make sure that any numbers that comes in is of good quality. Data analysts, if they do not double check everything and pay attention to the detail, then it's not going to work. You need to be the kind of person who absolutely cares that the decimal place is in the right place, that the dates are correct, that the labeling is correct. You need to be obsessed about that kind of stuff. And the other thing is data analysts work across the business. So they need to be very good at collaborating with different departments to make sure that they understand what is important for that business. Now, what you need if you want to be a data analyst is that you need some level of knowledge of SQL, intermediate. This is the kind of stuff that you can either do in your degree, if you're running a computer science degree, or any engineering degree, actually, or maths degree. You can easily do some kind of SQL. But you can actually, even if it's not in your degree, if you're from, so for example, I entered the world as a data analyst. My background is psychology. I knew the statistics stuff, so the latter part here, the statistics and analytical knowledge, but I learned this on the job. But you can easily learn this now from courses. There are so many courses, YouTube courses, that you can learn this from, so it's very easy to pick up SQL. This is very important still. People underestimate, but you need to have very, very good Excel or Google Sheet skill, like advanced. And I'm not talking about just writing sum or VLOOKUPs. I'm talking about very, very advanced Excel and Google Sheet skills. You need to be able to use some kind of visualization tool. Now, you don't need to be an expert at it, but you need to know how it works. So Power BI, Tableau are 2 of the most common ones. You at least need to know how it works. Now, if you're at university, you might have free license to Power BI. If I were you, I'd play around with it. Or if you're in a company that has access to it, play around with it. You can actually import local data, i.e. local data from your PC into Power BI, and play around with it. You just need to know enough to build a dashboard or a report, okay? And the reason for that is the data analyst is not going to be the one who's going to be asked to build sort of corporate-wide reports. They're going to be asked to build one-off type reports, okay? So you just need to be good enough to use it. So basically, if you got hired for this a data analyst role, no one's going to be showing you how to use Power BI. You're going to have to know how to use it in the beginning, and then you'll learn on the job. But the big thing about being a data analyst is statistical and analytical knowledge. You need to have good descriptive statistics. If you are not good at statistics, and this doesn't mean that you have to do a math degree. I did a psychology degree. Psychology is full of statistics, okay? And a lot of other sociology, a lot of other social sciences are full of statistics. So you don't have to be from a maths or a stats background. You could come in with a social science degree and become a data analyst. The rest of these things, like I said, you can easily pick up. But this kind of stuff, it helps if you're taught it formally. So learning statistics formally is really important. You can try and teach yourself, but actually I've found, and all the people that I've hired, is that you're only good if you've been taught it in your part of your degree or part of your courses, because the way it's taught means that you get to understand its relevance and application. So inferential statistics is simple stuff like correlation, A/B testing, that kind of stuff. You need to be good at data cleaning, okay? And you know to handle missile values. So if you do statistics, you know things like how to look for outliers, how to look for duplicate. You'll know about skew, how if data skews. You'll know if there's kurtosis in the data, all this kind of stuff. The other thing is you need to have domain knowledge, okay? You need to understand the business you're in. So as data analyst, you will have to if you're going to go and apply for a job, you need to know that job. Now, this is where I say, for example, if during your degree or during your studies, you were working in a retail store, even if it's a cashier or a shop front, that knowledge is invaluable. Do not underestimate that knowledge. If you've worked in retail, you know how it works. You know how the tills work. You know what's collected. You know when you scan the barcode, what data comes up on the point of sale on the till. Okay, that knowledge is very valuable. So don't think that any part-time job you do is not valuable for data analytics. So if you work in a hospital, for example, you work in a clinic, and then you apply for a job as a data analyst in a clinic, your knowledge about how a clinic operates or a hospital operates is actually very valuable. So do not discount that. So when you're doing your CV, if you're applying for a job in a domain that you have previously done a part-time job in during your studies, I would highlight that, okay? And then finally, one of the things that's very important to be a data analyst is curiosity and skepticism. Sometimes you will analyze the data and it will just be like, oh, okay, that's fine. But you've always got to have in the back of your mind, is this actually true? Does it make sense? Is the data source broken? Am I seeing an artifact of something, right? Sometimes the data doesn't lie, but it hides hidden truths, and you need to make sure that you can get to those hidden truths so you're not being misled by the analysis that you're doing. So data analyst is something you don't need like necessarily a maths or an engineering or a computer science degree to get in. You can get in through other ways, as long as the statistical stuff you've got a good grounding on. Domain and curiosity you build through your normal life, like your experience of living. And SQL, Excel, and visualization, you can easily do short courses and become proficient at it. I mean, I'll reinforce that at the end. A lot of people are doing this now, so don't think that just because you've done a certification, it's automatically going to get you a job. The job market's very competitive, and so you will need to really be good at it, and you'd need to be able to demonstrate that in a portfolio of how good you are.